Welcome to Mental Makeover Radio, your go-to destination for meaningful conversations about mental health. I'm your host and your trusted therapist bestie, Cecilia Manella. Join us as we explore the complexities and messiness of human experience by addressing your questions and concerns. I'm here to provide a straightforward and practical therapy advice. So grab your favorite beverage, whether it's tea, coffee, or whatever tickles your taste buds, and get ready to embark on a mental makeover. Hello and welcome to Mental Makeover Radio. I am your host, Cecilia Manella, and I'm really glad that you are here today. We are about a week away from the holiday season. When this episode drops, it'll probably be about 5 days before Christmas. So today I'm doing an episode on the holiday season and struggling through the holidays, because as much as this season is all about the lights and the tinsels and the magic of all the things, it also can be a season of a lot of pressure and a reminder of maybe some not so great things. And that can be really, really challenging. So whether you're dealing with, the first Christmas from a divorce, or someone has passed, so grief and loss, or whether it's a divorce or grief from many, many, many years ago, it doesn't have to be recent. It can be a really heavy season in general with the weather change. It can also bring up other losses, jobs, careers, trajectory of the life that we thought we would have. Or maybe it's just kind of having the winter blues. Just feeling a little bit heavy with the season. This episode is for you, because I want to talk about, all the pressure that comes with this season. And every single year it makes me ask myself, why do we do what we do? Genuine question. Why do you do what you do during the season? And why is there so much pressure to do all the things? I've talked to a lot of moms, and they're all complaining about this whole new trend about Elf on the Shelf. And it makes you wonder, who came up with this idea? And why is it regulated to the moms? Now, not to say there's not dads out there who are doing it, but if we're just being really honest with each other, a lot of the magic of Christmas falls on women, falls on the moms. And moms do a lot of work to make this season pretty freaking amazing. And they create this magic. And when I think about my childhood Christmases, and I want you to think about your childhood Christmases possibly, and ask yourself, what do you actually remember about them? It wasn't, probably 3/4 of the stuff that you're doing right now to make this season magical for yourself, for other people, for your children. And, you're not going to remember, you didn't remember those things from your own childhood. I sure don't. What I remember about Christmas as a kid was Santa, the magic of Santa, and it was the coming together. It was the excitement of some of the gifts under the tree. It was the lights, and it was this dedicated family time. It wasn't about all the other things. Now, I know that my mom did a lot of stuff, and she probably ran around with, like a chicken with her head cut off, because I remember her being stressed and being overwhelmed. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish that it would have just been a bit more simpler. And I encourage you to think of this season of making it a little bit simpler, because there's a pressure to do it all. Well, it's not about just doing a few of the things for Christmas. Somehow we're under this impression that we have to do all the things, the Elf on the Shelf and the tree and the lights and the having people over and entertaining and baking, everything that we associate with this time of year, all the visiting, parties and friendships and all the things, is just a lot. And we happen to cram it into this very short period of time at the end of the year, when we're all freaking exhausted from the entire year. Seems a little bit ludicrous to me. And it really puts a lot of pressure on mental health. So if you go into the season not in the most amazing space, then it makes everything worse. So If you go into it good, then, you're going to probably manage it fairly well. But if you go into it feeling some grief, some loss, some heaviness, some sadness, some symptoms of depression or anxiety, or just struggles in general, the season can make it way worse. And I just don't think it's worth it. And I hope you come to a place of realizing that it's actually not worth all the craziness. And I have a few ideas for you to help make the season a little bit better, or make it a little bit more peaceful, or just make it just more at ease, so you don't get past the holiday season totally wrecked, totally exhausted, and not in a restful place. Because I want you to get through the season and feel like you're bringing in 2024 from a restful place. I want you to think about being clear with your internal boundaries. So this isn't about the boundaries that you set with other people, but it's about the boundaries that you set with yourself. And the boundaries that we set with ourselves are about, what am I going to do and what am I not going to do? Okay, so these are a list of yeses and nos that you are going to set for yourself. How many Christmas gatherings are you actually going to go to? How many people are you going to host? How much are you going to spend? Is it worth spending all the things that you're spending money on? How are you going to spend your time? Who are you going to spend your time with? So these are all the internal boundaries. Are you going to do all the things that come with the holiday season or not? And is it really worth it? Years ago, I decided to just stop with all the stress of having to decorate. I love Christmas decorations, but I realized I really enjoy when somebody else has Christmas decorations and I don't have to be in charge of them. So I just stopped. And there's freedom in that, but also, there's no Christmas police. No one showed up to my house to tell me to put something up, put up the Christmas trees or do the lights or do all the things. No one showed up and nobody cared. Now, some people might have opinions about it, and, it just doesn't really matter, because everyone's going to have an opinion, and that's totally okay. So be really clear with your own internal boundaries about what you're willing to do and not willing to do. Make a list, grab a pen, paper, write it down. What is expected? What do you actually want to do? And what do you not want to do anymore? You don't have to entertain other people. You don't have to have contact with everybody once a year just because it's what we do. It seems just a little bit silly. So start setting those boundaries. Know that you can break these expectations that we have about what the season is supposed to look like, and make it whatever you want it to. The second thing is, I really want to encourage you to not overcompensate. Now, when we experience grief and loss, and that can come from the death of someone, or a divorce, or a change, anything, especially with parents, where we feel a sense of guilt that it's not just as special as it used to be, we tend to overcompensate. And I'm going to tell you to not. I'm going to ask you to please not overcompensate, because one, it's actually just not worth it. You're going to run yourself ragged trying to achieve all these imaginary expectations of what makes something magical, and you're going to run yourself into the ground. And you'll think that your child or your children are going to remember how magical the season was. But I'm telling you, what they're going to remember is a really tired mom, right? So you need to ask yourself, what is actually worth it? They're not going to always remember the magic. They're going to remember your state of mind. They're going to remember your emotional availability. They're going to remember, are we connected? Was this something that built relationships or not? I want you to focus on what builds relationships versus trying to achieve the unattainable, trying to do all the things that make something magical. The magic isn't in the things. The magic is in the relationship. The magic is in how you show up. The magic is in those bonding moments. It's not in the things. We are focusing on the wrong stuff. Focus on the relationships. Do not focus on the things to overcompensate with. And that leads me to thinking about, really contemplating your values. Okay. So it's not falling into the trap of, people pleasing and doing things for the sake of others, or doing things for the sake of tradition. It's focusing on values. So if your value is, connection, then that's what you do for the season is focus on connection. If your value is more about quality time, then focus on that. I want you to think about what is important to you the other days of the year, because Christmas is one day a year. It's not a huge season. It's one day a year. All the other things that are important is what you need to focus on. Do not fall into the trap that we get told to follow all these traditions that maybe don't really make a lot of sense, and focus on what's valuable. So if you're a person of faith, this time of year has nothing to do with all the things. It has to do with your faith. So get rooted back into that if you're a person of faith. If you are a person that does not ascribe to a specific religious construct or a bit more spiritual or just non-religious, really ask yourself, what is this season about? What are we celebrating then? We tend to fall into this season, and it doesn't necessarily mean it aligns with us. And we forget that we can actually define it ourselves. We can decide what the season's going to be. We can decide how we're going to engage. We can decide how we show up. We can decide what traditions we are going to do and not do. And we can decide what makes sense. Okay? Because Christmas, again, is one day a year. We've turned it into this a huge season. And, I kind of blame commercialism on that. And, if you go to any of the stores, Christmas shows up sometimes before Halloween is over. That has nothing to do with Christmas. That's about consumerism and buying things and getting ahead of things. And what it does, it creates this massive amounts of anxiety and worry that you're not going to measure up to something. But the truth is, it's just one day a year. It doesn't have to be bigger than that. And if making it bigger than that is causing you a lot of worry and a lot of stress and running yourself into the ground, you have to ask yourself, is that worth it? And I'm guessing it's not. I want you to be kind to yourself in this process, that letting go of old traditions can be hard sometimes. And there's some grief attached to that. And that's part of you being kind to yourself, to remember that the Christmas is one day a year. It is not an entire season, and we don't have to make it a whole season. You can be gentle with yourself. You can lower the expectations of perfection into something that is actually good enough. Good enough has a lot of value. I know good enough has a really bad rap, and somehow it means that we're not measuring up, we're not trying hard enough, we're not doing something enough. But let me tell you, good enough is enough. Trust me, good enough is enough. Being kind to yourself involves some self-care. Is it self-care staying up to midnight every single night, trying to shop and wrap and do all the things and make everything special so you run yourself into the ground? That's not really being kind to yourself. So think about the ways that you can be kinder to yourself in this season, and maybe scale back a little bit to retain your energy, retain the magic of the season of connection and love and family, maybe, and friendships and relationships. Whatever it is that you want it to be, you need to be kind to yourself and not measure up to these awful standards of perfection that just actually don't exist. So not engaging in perfection, one of the biggest steps you can take is get off social media. Holy moly, is social a really good place for comparison. And comparison is a thief of joy. There's no joy in comparison. Get off the social media, get off seeing everybody else's posts, people that you know, people you don't even know, strangers who are just going to be posting this like curated, perfect photo of their family or what they're doing. And, we don't remember that they're taking 20,000 photos before they find the one photo that they're going to, filter and edit and make it perfect and make a reel and all the things. Listen, get off social media. It's just not worth it. The stress is not worth it. Watch some movies. If you want to, go outside, do something different, have a puzzle, read a book, do anything but be on social media, especially during the season, because it will hook you into comparison, and comparison leads to perfection. So there's a sense of, I just don't have enough, or someone else has it better than me, or they have more connections or more friendships than I do. And we just go down this rabbit hole around like, my life is worthless and I'm not good enough and I don't have enough. And we just see ourselves as lacking. When we sit in comparison, we'll always come up lacking. And that is just not worth it. It's not worth the spiral that comes with it. To see everybody else's curated Christmas posts, not worth it. Just get off of it. Take social media off your phone. Disable the app. You can always put it back on, but just take it off. And I encourage you to take it off like days before Christmas, and maybe don't put it on until the new year. Do other things. Fill your time with other things. Reach out for connection, and, keeping the reaching out for connection really simple. Again, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a party. It doesn't have to be whether I was included or not included or invited, or all my other friends are invited to all these other parties. Again, we're back into comparison, whereas reaching out for connection is actually really just simple. Sometimes it's a quick text message. Sometimes it's just a quick phone call. It's going to the movies with someone maybe, or reaching out to people who live far away. The other thing for connection, if you are grieving and you've got some loss in your life, is to write a letter to that person. Write a letter to the people that you miss. Write a letter to people that are no longer here, that you wish were here. Writing and journaling can be such a powerful tool. And what it does is it helps us maintain connection to what we've lost and who we've lost. And just because they're not here, physically here, it doesn't mean that we don't have a relationship with them. We still have memories. We still have the feelings that we have felt. I want you to spend some time maybe writing, journaling about what this season actually means to you. What do you want it to mean to you? If you were to put aside everything that you assume is about Christmas time, I want you to write out what you want it to be, because maybe this is a really perfect time to start new traditions, to change things. If you've had change this year or in the past few years and you're struggling with how different this time might be for you because of drastic changes, then take the opportunity to redefine what this freaking looks like, because it doesn't have to be what it was. There's so much space for transformation, for things to be different. And we can often cause ourselves a lot of suffering by holding on to what we think it should be, instead of allowing it to be what it could be. It could be maybe just another day for you. It could be a season of rest for you. It could be a reason to have a lot of fun. It could be a reason to maybe watch a lot of movies and disengage from all the comparison that's happening. It can be anything you want it to be. There's actually no rules around it, to be honest. We often act like there's all these rules around Christmas time, but the truth is these things are kind of just made up. There's, no rules that tell us it has to be just this one way. It can be whatever you want it to be. And that is like the beauty of it, is that you can make it whatever you want it to be. But you got to ask yourself, what do I want this to be? How do I want this time to pass? How do I want to be in this time? Who do I want to be connected to? What are activities I want to do, or activities I don't want to do? What do I want to opt out of? What do I not want to do anymore? Because you are in charge of this. And we often forget that. We're so consumed with doing what's expected of how it's been done in the past or how we did in the past. And we don't realize that there's a way to transform it. I mean, there's a lot of people that travel this time of year and just leave. Great. That's great. That makes a lot of sense. Make it what you want it to be. Decorate or don't decorate. It really makes a difference. There is no Christmas police. No one's showing up to arrest you. You could completely opt out of this entire season and nothing will happen. Nothing bad's going to happen. So if that's true, that means that then the chaos that we create or the stress that we create is something that we can either opt into or we can opt out of. And I encourage you to opt out of anything that causes a lot of stress during the season, because we are ready. Winter is really difficult. Seasonal changes are actually really difficult, and there's no reason to make this more stressful than it is. There's a reason why January, they say, is the saddest month of the year. Part of that is weather related, because it's typically the darkest month of the year. But the other piece is that We run ourselves into the ground in December, and we go into January completely ragged. We go into January with really high credit card bills or debt that we've accumulated to try to make something really magical. And as a consequence, January has the highest rates of suicide it's the highest rates of suicide in the month of the year is in January. And it's not a coincidence. It happens for a reason, in the sense that we do run ourselves into the ground with all these expectations. And then we get into January completely depleted. And I do not want that for you. I want you to go into the new year feeling rested, feeling, at ease inside yourself, that you did it the way that you wanted to do it. And that just because it is this way this year doesn't mean it has to be the same way next year. That's the other thing. You can change how you do this. You can change your traditions. You can change every single piece of it. You are actually in charge of it. Again, there's no Christmas police. So do what you need to do for you, and do what you need to do to keep your wellness in check. So on that note, I wish you a peaceful and restful holiday. I want this season to be a time of ease for you. I want this to be a time of rest for you. And I want you to get out of it what you want to get out of it, without the pressure of what society tells us it should be, what your family tells you it should be, what anyone tells you what it should be. I want you to make it just unique for you. And I would love to hear from you around how you're making this season just yours. So would love to hear how that is going for you. Let me know. Let me know what you're doing different. Let me know what you're letting go of. Let me know how you're making this season a more of a restful season, and how you're going to use the season to go into the new year, not frazzled, not overwhelmed, and not ragged, but at ease and at peace with yourself and how you navigated this time of year. I hope you found this helpful. Please share it with anyone who needs to hear it. There's a lot of us struggle through the holiday season, and I would hazard a guess that more people struggle than not. So I think it's an important conversation for us to have. If you found this episode helpful and you've enjoyed it, please, hit that like and subscribe and follow button on your preferred platform. Your support just fuels the growth of this podcast, and that means everything to me. This show wouldn't be possible without you. You can look at our show notes for a quick link to how you can submit a question to the podcast and, have a chance to be featured on upcoming episodes. Thanks again for being part of the Mental Makeover community. Until next time, be bold, be brave, and be well.